Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Tom.
And I'm Darlene Rample.
And oh my goodness, it's 10:30. It's, 10:15. And it is coffee time. Please grab your coffee. Seriously, we need to stop drinking coffee and drink something else because every,
Water.
yes, we should totally have water,
We
darling.
should. We're happening.
Yeah, today we just spoke to somebody and I said, "Are you drinking coffee?" And she's like, "No, I'm drinking lemon water. Lemon with water, hot water." I'm like, "That sounds more healthy." So maybe we'll switch from coffee time to hot water. The choice is yours. However, we're excited to be here, and last week was amazing. I mean, I always say amazing. I'm always excited because it's an honor to show up every Wednesday at 10:15 to be with you to share lessons learned through life and loss.
Mhm.
And we continue with a theme about stories that heal. Darlene, I'm not sure about you, but for me, even as we talk about this, I'm learning.
Mhm.
And when I'm out there in the world, in my community, with my family, I'm actually wearing a heart with ears. I'm like, for the first time, Jennifer, listen, because I want people to be open. I know that stories heal.
Mhm.
And so if you love your loved ones, let them heal. And how do we let them heal? Is by letting them share their story
Mhm.
without analyzing, judging, or fixing.
Mhm.
That is huge, especially for mom. I don't know how many of us have kids. As soon as my kids say, my daughter or my son say something, I'm ready to fix. So I don't listen. And that's not a heart with ears. So our challenge for the month is to have a heart with ears.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, Darlene, what are your thoughts on that? She's the expert. She's good, guys.
And it takes practice listening to people and having that heart with ears where we're not just thinking about the next thing we're going to say or what we're going to share or how we can make things better. I'm a fixer too. I want to make things better and solve problems. But when I'm listening to someone, it doesn't help to try and fix them. Because when you share, you want somebody to hear you what you're saying. You want to have somebody listen and actually hear what you're saying, and that's what's so powerful about stories. And we were talking about how stories heal, and one of the things it does is it allows somebody to actually share their story to be heard, and that creates an emotional connection. And that's what changes us. That's what heals us. Jen was talking about fixing, criticizing, and judging, right? People, when we don't know somebody, when we just meet somebody in the street and we just see them and haven't heard their story, we're very quick to criticize. We're very quick to judge them. And because we don't have that emotional connection with them. Online, social media is a prime example of where we criticize, analyze, we complain about a person, and because it's not like it's a real person, we have no emotional connection to that person, and that can be very hurtful when we don't have that connection, that emotional connection.
That's so good, darling. That emotional connection is huge. And you're right, when it's online, like we don't have that, but when it's in person, and I believe we have to start with our own homes. We have to start with our own tight circle,
Mm-hmm.
practice before we get out there. So I feel like for even us to get that emotional connection with the people we love, the people who live with us, the people who are our friends, the people we see every day, we need to start from this our circle. I have to share that this summer, I can't believe summer is almost over. I had an experience, or I had a honor to take our kids to a grad trip. Okay, so I raised my hand and I'm like one of those moms who will drive the kids to this place. Okay, so we drove 16 hours and we went to these streets where there was a lot of drugs. And for the first time, I thought this was a prank. Like, do not throw me in the middle of really bad streets where there's all things you can think of, and mostly it's addiction. And so my first impression was judgment. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Why are they here? Why are they taking drugs? Why are we allowing this? And it was big for me. until we were there for 7 days and we started hearing their stories. They started sharing their stories, and oh my goodness, talk about emotional connection. My judgment was wiped out because I realized these people had trauma. These people have a story. Something happened in their life that they needed to numb the pain to take that drug. And that's what I would have if I read it online, which I have judged those people. Why would they take drugs? And but however, until I went on those streets and heard their stories, now I am completely different human being because of that. I heard the stories. I heard their stories, and this is what happened. There was that where I realized, oh, their story is just like me and you and everybody. And then at some point, somebody said, nobody decides to go and be an addict. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I'm going to be an addict. There is trauma behind it. Something happened behind that. And maybe, I'm not saying everybody, but maybe they didn't get a chance to be heard. And they needed to numb that pain. And when you numb it, maybe you take one little thing and then it leads to something that now it's so big that we can't even get out of it. Okay, I just went on this. However, what I'm trying to say is that still stories do heal. Please, stories do heal. And that's why this month is huge for us, where we hear people's stories. Because they heal, and when we feel heard or we're able to voice and tell a story about us, we could avoid a lot of things. We could avoid drugs, we could avoid too much alcohol, we could avoid, name it. We know how because we all have it, there's a way we cope with these things, and one is no better than the other. It's just that we can improve to be better listeners. We can improve to listen with the heart of ears. And we can improve by sharing our stories. And that's why this month is just like, there you go,
Thank
darling.
you for sharing. That's amazing, right? That being vulnerable and it's right. When we don't know somebody and their story, it's harder for us to be emotionally connected to them. But it's that emotional connection when we share our stories, and we see this in groups so many times when people come and share their stories. Just that there's this great emotional connection, and they start feeling safe, and they start feeling that connection, that healing connection, where people can share and can speak into their lives, and that they can start healing, start letting go of those things that have held them captive or held them back. And we've had it in our lives. If you want to listen to our stories, I think 2 weeks ago we shared our story. We all have loss. We all have stories and things that have happened to us that hold us back. And when we keep that secret, when we don't share those stories, we shut down. We do things that we wouldn't normally do. We do drugs, or we do things that we wouldn't normally do. And so that's why it's so important that as we go on, that we share our stories, and that we heal from our stories, that we share them in a way where we get listened to, where there is emotional connection, and where we can have the tools to move forward, because we don't have to live like that. We can live free, right? We can live our lives. Jen loves talking about living your life in the present, and we need to, in order to live our lives in the present, sometimes we have to be able to be heard. Our stories have to be told to free us and let us live in the present.
I love that. I love that so much. I love that so much. You know, as you were sharing, Darlene, and as we talked about this theme of sharing stories, I actually asked Darlene this because what? I'm losing my words. It's all good. It's just because now I'm thinking about how I grew up. And so English is my second language, my fifth language. I started translating this story in my language, so my
Mhm.
English disappeared. What I was trying to say is that how I grew up, when we were younger, I remember we used to sit around the fire,
Mhm.
and my grandparents or an elder would tell stories.
Mhm.
And now, as an adult, and I'm talking about stories do heal,
Mhm.
sharing stories that heal, is like, oh, I see what they used to do and why.
Mhm.
So the question to you, did you grow up with stories? Like, did
Mhm.
you grow up around a fire and someone telling you stories? Because that's how we did it.
Mhm.
I know for sure we didn't have a TV or cell phone. So we needed, like, that was our story time. And we
Mhm.
had story time in the evening, and they're the most memorable.
Mhm.
That's how our elders passed wisdom to us. That's
Mhm.
how they told us how they did life.
Mhm.
And you know what? I'm sure it healed. It was healing for them, but also for us, it was like,
Mhm.
whoa, really? So I encourage, let's
Mhm.
start telling stories. And that's why we're doing this month, is because stories do heal.
Mhm.
We should totally have a fireplace and invite a few friends somewhere, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
start
great.
sharing stories. I love it
I
so
just
much.
remember when you say that it is camping. When we go camping, what we do, and friends come camping, we sit around the fire and we tell stories. And that's again the same thing. That's where we share, and that was just another experience about camping that where I know that we sat together and share stories. So
I love it. We should do more camping,
we should do
darling.
more camping.
It's only that this where we live right now, I think camping is how many months?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So I had to Google about storytelling. And I love this so much.
Mhm.
Stories let us share information in a way that creates an emotional connection.
Mhm.
Darlene covered that. They help us to understand that information and each other,
Mhm.
and it makes the information memorable.
Yes.
That's why my grandparents' information is so memorable. I still remember up to date. I've forgotten a lot of TikToks that I've watched,
Mhm.
but I remember what my grandma said, like
Mhm.
her story.
Mhm.
So it makes it memorable. So this is interesting. So
Mhm.
guess what, friends? So enough of our stories. We are promising next week
Mhm.
we'll have a guest, and the following week we'll have a guest, and
Mhm.
this guest, woo! The stories will be memorable. I
Mhm.
promise you. Please tune in. We're bringing guests. They're gonna share their stories that heal, and we are super, super excited.
Mhm.
We're super excited about it. So stay tuned to our guests and just listen and just see. And if you learn something or hear something or you're inspired
Mhm.
to join our guest list of stories that heal, please click on the link, just connect with us, and you will be on our podcast, on our grief talk, on our, we're going to call it our fireplace, okay? Online fireplace, right? So let's do that. And lastly, I would like Darlene to invite you to our dailies.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen enough of us on Wednesdays, we're going to start dailies. And we're just going to take nuggets, just a small piece. It's going to be a short reel where we just encourage and create community. And Jen's going to share a short story or a short lesson with you, just to encourage you. Every day is a new day. And sometimes by the end of the day, at least I am, by the end of the day, I sometimes go on a low, right? And you're tired, and then you want to wake up the next day and you're still maybe a little down. Dailies help us lift us up, right? And help us remember. And so we encourage you to subscribe to our dailies, where you can learn about life and loss. We're
Life
still
and
new.
Loss Daily.
Life and loss dailies. So come and join us. You'll see Jen's excited, happy face to encourage you every morning, to come and listen and just take one nugget, take one thing that you can take with you through the day. So, yeah, subscribe.
See you at Life and Loss Daily.